Hi, welcome back. This is Christina from Cosmic Insight Astrology. And I made a decision to make actually a podcast for you guys about the future. And it's going to be sneak peek into the future. And we're going to talk about and analyze the cycles together. And I'm going to tell you actually what is the planetary cycles, how does it work, and what kind of cycles we had in the near past and in the future what will we have, and how is it going to affect our life collectively. So let's talk about first of all the cycles. What is a planetary cycles? Planetary cycles is an unfoldment of planetary dynamics between two planets. So to understand, for example, the planetary cycle of Saturn and Pluto, you have to actually understand everything about Saturn and also everything about Pluto. This is actually start always with a conjunction, and after it follows through sequences. So usually we do the cycles, which is like starts with a conjunction, after a vexing square, after an opposition, after a winning square, and again, it's going to back to conjunction again. So the conjunction is what's marking the beginning of the next cycle. The conjunction starts the cycle that is the first quarter phase. This is actually the conception of a new direction, and it is related to those two planets, the issue. So the next cycle is the square, the vexing square, which is end of the first phase, and it starts the second phase. And it is when the two planet is 90 degrees apart. It is like the birth, it's not the conception. So if you imagine like a conception of a baby, the first cycle is actually when you are pregnant, and the second cycle is when you are giving the birth. So it could be pretty threatening, and it could be truly painful, just like a birthing process itself. But usually it survives the threat. And the third cycle is the opposition, when the two planets is 180 degrees apart. So they are opposing each others in heaven. So that is actually the peak of the cycle between those two planets. And this is usually when the issue what we had with the conception, it's already became a norm, and we are living our lives with that norm. And then when it's gonna go to winning square, that is actually the final phase of the cycle, when the two planets are 270 degrees apart. And this is again when it's a new issue going to be born, actually not born yet, but actually like before it's a new issue when we are going to talk about like this is not serving us anymore. We have to get rid of this condition again, and we need a new conception. So that's the phase of that. And this is actually very, very strong cycle, the last one, because that is the aspect when it's applying the aspect. So this is when people starts to do protest, and they restless, and they know something is wrong with that norm, we can't take it anymore. So that's the phase of restlessness, when we are like, all right, so that's it, we cannot take this pressure anymore, and we need something new. So, and then, of course, the next cycle is starting again, and it's another conjunction, which is like the 360 degree or the 0 degrees it start with, right? So this is that when it's a new conception, a new baby is born, and that is out with the old, all right, the protestar over, we win over something, and the old is done, and some new beginning is there for us. So, you know, those kind of cycles is coming, as we were talking about. The main and the most important are the conjunction, the vexing, and the square, the opposition, Venning square, and the conjunction again. But of course, those planets does have sextile and trine as well, just like, you know, in the regular birth chart or transit chart, everything has sextile and came to sextile or trine as well. So what you have to also know about that, in nature, those aspects, for example, the square is a force, and it is a force of manifestation. That is when we are taking actions, because there's some challenges we meet and we cannot take it anymore. So we need to take some actions. The opposition is also a very challenging aspect, and that is like the polarity of the two planets. When we are seeking for some kind of resolution. And the sextile, because sometimes, of course, those planets go into sextile, it is bringing us opportunity. The sextile is, you know, like you have to work for it. You still have to initiate it, but at least it's filled with opportunity. And the trine is the most amazing aspect in astrology. It's like a golden plate. It's like silver spoon. It's granted for us. So there is like, it's a stimulation. So there is no conflict in it at all. So that the opportunity that we had before, it's almost granted for us. So let's start with the past first. And you see, first of all, I have to talk about this here. You see, I just shared this bar here, and we can talk about Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn cycle. Every 20 years, we do have Jupiter and Saturn cycle. There is only the social planet, Jupiter, Saturn, and the outer planet, but actually we're gonna talk about a little bit of Venus and Mars as well, because they are also making cycles with the outer planet and with the social planet. But here I just put that in this tab, the outer and social planet. So Jupiter and Saturn every 20 years meets and conjunct together in another sign. There we do have, I put Chiron over here, so we do have Jupiter and Chiron every 13 and 20 years, or Saturn and Chiron every 64 and 165 years. The difference between how long does it resides in a sign, it's because of the retrogression as well. All right, so let me see Jupiter and Uranus. It's every 13 to 14 years. Uranus and Saturn every 44 and 46 years. And let's see Neptune and Jupiter. Neptune and Jupiter every 12 and 13 years in a different sign. Then look at that Saturn and Neptune, and every 35 and 37 years, and we're gonna have one in 2026 coming up. And then we're going to have here, no, we are not going to consider right now Chiron, but we're gonna have Uranus and Neptune every 171 year. So that is one in a lifetime experience, right? Then let's see Jupiter and Pluto. Jupiter and Pluto is every 12 to 14 years. Then Saturn and Pluto every 31 and 38 years. Then Uranus and Pluto 111 and 143 years, and Neptune and Pluto, that is like every 500 years. That is crazy. So that's definitely taking a long, long time. And why is that? Because of, you know, how long does it take, for example, the planet to go around the zodiac sign? For example, the sun takes 360 days. So a year. The moon every 28 days going around the zodiac cycle, 28 and a half days actually. So it resides around 2.5 days in one sign. And then Mercury, every 88 days, going around the zodiacal cycle, and Venus takes 224 and half day go around the zodiacal cycle. Usually it's go to retrograde every 2 years. Till Mercury, it goes 3 or 4 times to retrograde. Sun and Moon never goes to retrograde. Let's talk about Mars. Mars goes around the zodiacal cycles for 668 days, and then which is 2.5 years, and it also goes to retrograde usually every 2 years. Right now it's gonna go to retrograde in Gemini and end of October 30th. So that's why it's going to reside in Gemini for 7 months. Jupiter is going around the cycle, zodiacal cycle, between 11 years, 11 and a half years around. And it also goes to retrograde, and Saturn is going around the zodiacal cycle actually every 29 years, 29 and a half years. So you have usually 2 to 3 Saturn return in your life. So let's see what else can we say, and where should we start this whole cycle thing video. So I'm going to start with Saturn-Pluto conjunction, and I'm going to go back a little bit here for you. So Saturn and Pluto conjunction, what was and what took place at January 12, 2020. So, you know, Pluto is the planet of transformation, destruction, elimination, regeneration, renewal. It is the planet of taboos. It rules the 8th house and co-rules with Mars, rules Scorpio. And you know, it is very destructive energy. So it rules the other people's money, banking, it rules sex, death, pregnancy as well, and obsession. So it rules the underworld. Pluto is Hades in Greek mythology. And let's see Saturn, Kronos, what's going on with Saturn, and what does it represent to understand this cycle. So it's represent limitation, it's represent restriction, caution, organization, endurance, discipline, responsibility. Saturn also really ambitious planet as well. And Saturn actually is not the worst planet. It represents fear, but not the worst planet. It's a social planet, and it's Kronos. It is the father of Jupiter, and Jupiter was the only one who survived Kronos' anger, because Kronos ate all his children, but Jupiter escaped. And so Saturn is always limitation, and it's always also decay as well. And you know, it could be very malefic, but not all the time. It depends what kind of aspect does it make, for example, with benefic planets. But in this time that, you know, like this whole cycle happened 38 years before, Saturn and Pluto, definitely it's a power struggle. It's usually transformed the whole structure of politics and the whole structure of power. For example, rebuild the economic, or actually destroy the economic. And it's also, you know, like you can refer Saturn-Pluto conjunction to epidemics, like, right? Because we had the pandemic started with COVID in around that time, because actually it started a little bit before, but when the whole entire quarantine started, it was around February after the conjunction. So Saturn is boundaries, and Pluto is because of the transformation and the death. That is actually totally representing that time in our life when we had to have boundaries, we had so many restrictions. And why? Because the Plutonian energy, because of the powerful people, because of the death, you know, like that created a lot of death. So we questioned our security or stability. and a lot of things by that time. In history, when we are going back to Saturn and Pluto conjunction, it's happened before in the 1913 and 16 or 17, between that time. And then that was when the World War first started in the world, and it was really devastating. And it was also like we had to create a totally new structure after the World War One, and we just came back like phoenix from ashes. So it was actually, it is a way to purge. It is a way to end the old system, and start something new. So what else happened back then? Well, in literature, we had H.G. Wells, who wrote The World Set Free, which was actually predicting the atomic bomb. And Franz Kafka, I'm a drama teacher, and I love Kafka, actually. He wrote a lot of book. He wrote The Trial, and he also wrote The Metamorphosis, and that was typical, really, really Plutonian, transformative novel. And what can we accept right now from this Saturn-Pluto conjunction for the next 37, 38 years? So definitely destructive, definitely phoenix. So you don't have to fear from it, because everything is changing in life, and we always going to reborn no matter what. So, but definitely it is a cleansing. And unfortunately, it is terrorism and war. And look at the genocides and the ethnic cleansing. So look at also the situation with the Black Lives Matter, what we had back then, and the unrest, the social unrest. Look at the economic recession that's going on already, the massive unemployment, but actually the massive unemployment is still going to come, and it's going to be the Neptune and Jupiter conjunction, the result of that, but we're gonna talk about that later. So, but that's already starting that kind of situation. And you know what? Saturn is boundaries, and Pluto is like, Pluto could be actually the mafia, Pluto could be drug and the cartels as well, with Neptune as well, of course, because Neptune rules usually the drugs. But in this situation, Saturn is the wall. So we had in America built a wall back then, right? So yes, so that is definitely straightening the borders. But unfortunately, that is also violation of human rights. And it is like restriction of the civil liberties. So for example, the quarantine, for example, the mandatory vaccination, like actually it's taking away the liberty and the freedom of people. And Pluto could be extreme nationalism, when you are like really fighting for your country. That kind of it could birth that kind of situation as well. So also with that Saturn-Pluto conjunction, it could increase the conservatism and the far rights. So it's also going to increase paranoia and conspiracy theories as well. So for example, Pluto is the shadow, Saturn is the restriction. So that is the power of shadow government, for example. And Pluto is volcano and volcano eruption. So it could be not just the epidemics and nasty diseases, but also destructive earthquake as well. So the earth itself is changing its structure. Don't forget, Saturn is Kronos. So that's the creation over there, and the creation is coming with explosion. So there is something which is changing, geography and changing itself. Saturn also representing mountains, and Pluto is volcanoes. So there is a lot of new mountains going to be born because of underwater volcanic activities. So that is the future of this Saturn-Pluto conjunction. However, it is destructive, but you always have to hope for phoenix to rise. So even from ashes, we can co-create and we can build something more beautiful for us. Let's go to the next one. It's already happened also. So that was the Saturn conjunct Jupiter in 2020, December 18th and between 28th. So that was around Christmas time, actually, the conjunction. We call this star, actually this conjunction, the Star of Bethlehem, the Star of Hope. And why do we call it? Because, Saturn is the father, Jupiter is Zeus, the sun. And so this is actually two totally opposite planets, right? Because of Jupiter is optimism and Saturn is realism. So you can see that it's two social planets, and Saturn is represent limitation, how I explained before, and restriction, but Jupiter is the planet of expansion and good fortune. It represents growth, prosperity, abundance, represent wisdom, generosity, higher mind. So definitely it's a lucky planet, and it's expand everything what touches. So in the history, when we look back, it started actually in 1989, an air cycle, Saturn and Jupiter conjunction. So it's happened in Aquarius, which is an air sign. And this air cycle going to give us actually something with education. So it's going to emphasis on education. It's going to emphasis on, for example, the way we learn, the way we remember. Saturn is the old, right? So the long-term memories, it could represent that as well. And it is something with Saturn is science, and with Jupiter over there, the science going to get magnified. In the history back then, we did have something which was like between the Christians and the Islam state. So, for example, the Islamic Empire was growing, and it was in the 13th century in history when Saturn and Jupiter conjuncted in. But that was also the war between Christians and Muslim as well. And also back then we had King John, the King of England, who signed Magna Carta. And in the 13th centuries, we really put a lot of emphasis on book printing as well. So education changed as well. Education going under limelight. So this going to be a major shift in politics. Why? Because Saturn rules politics as well and rules social organization. It rules, what is that, like non-profit organization and charity. And especially with Jupiter, it rules charity. Back then in the 13th centuries, a lot of empires rised and a lot of kings died. So what we can see right now, we will see a lot of politician or queen or kings die or disappear or resign. There is going to be a lot of resign politician, and then new is coming in. So that is actually with Saturn and Jupiter, we will create a kind of new humanity, a new understanding, a collective understanding of that new laws. And we're going to create also new society with those kind of new laws that's going to govern us. And we're not going to let the government control us, the system control us. Saturn is also tribes, so it also rules the 11th house, which is really humanitarian. So I can see a lot new tribe is coming on, and we're going to create or tribes which is like going to be self-sufficient, and we're going to make our own food, grow our own food, and teach our children. So we're going to create the rules even about the education for our children. So definitely it's, for example, Saturn is and Jupiter conjunction could bring us new spiritual teachers as well. So that could be really, truly amazing. And then, this is the birth here. Actually, after Saturn and Pluto was the pregnancy. This is the birth, kind of birth, because it's the expansion and contraction representing. Jupiter is the expansion, and Saturn is okay, let's push that baby out. So let's start something new, because we couldn't stay the way it was with that kind of lockdowns all over, and those kind of restriction. We need miracle, star of hope. We need miracle right now, and that's what we're going to have. We're going to create new opportunities, and because the comprehension and the intellect, because it's an air cycle, it's going to grow. So that's why we're going to have new opportunities. All right, so let's move forward and let's see the Neptune conjunct Jupiter, April 12, 2022. What kind of cycle did it start? So we were talking about Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto already, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but I'm going to talk about Neptune and what does it represent in astrology. So Neptune, definitely, it's very, very spiritual. It's representing our psychic ability or intuition. It's representing our dreams. It's representing our compassion and actually, illusion and self-sacrifice as well. But, Neptune also considered and indicates homelessness. It's represent the unprivileged, so prison, the incarcerated people, hospitals, hospice, hotels and vacations and islands, and, actually hurricanes as well, if it's squared with something malefic. But Neptune itself could be truly malefic, because Neptune is like a plain glasses. It's illusion, delusion, and it actually represents drugs and addiction as well. So but also the angels as well. So Neptune could go truly become yin and yang, but most planets could become positive and negative, and has positive and negative aspect. But in this matter, we have to talk a little bit about history. And you know what, you can go back for my first video I created about this, and you can go into details. So just go and listen it again. That was my very first video. So Neptune and Jupiter every 13 years conjuncting in heaven, but in Pisces it's conjuncted 165 years ago. And that was when we had the Opium War with China, and that was actually the England and France joined together and went against China, and that was when the Qing dynasty fell. So, and also we had the Russian war. So England and France against Russia, because Russia was representing an Orthodox Christianity, and then the Orthodox religion, and then France and England was like the Catholic. So those went against each other, and back then Russia fell. This time, I'm not so sure, but I'm gonna talk about few countries, and I'm gonna analyze few countries, and why do I think Russia going to be the next superpower and not China. All right, so what can we expect from this kind of conjunction? So as I said, the negative, the sorry side of this aspect is homelessness, increased suicide, and increased drug overdoses and unemployment. So that's all related to still Saturn and Pluto. It started over there when we had the pandemic, and it's going to continue with this, right? This is two really, it could be very beautiful conjunction, but unfortunately it can bring flood. And actually 165 years ago, we had also the French Great Flood as well. So we're going to see water rising. We're going to see a lot of flash flood. And you know what? Don't watch mainstream media, guys. I always go to YouTube and check the flood for that day and the fires, you know, like wood fires or whatever, and it shows all over the words, and it's not censored. So just go and look for yourself to get the truth and get the valid news out from, you know, from that trash that we get feed into. But so yes, unemployment and, you know, overdose. I just started to watch The Vice that is on YouTube, when people are in mask talking about sex industries and going to talk about drug and the cartel and mafia and everything like that. So, and ketamine and all the disgusting tranquilizer drugs, and you know, actually they use it, like they creating drugs when those children, teenagers who cannot think properly, yes, even tries it once and they overdose right away because it's filled with disgusting toxin and you know, everything. So we will see a lot of massive overdose. I also see, like, maybe even, you know, Neptune is big pharma. So it could be created like it's going to have a lot of medication which will have side effects, like tremendous side effects. And then what else can we see? So we're going to have a spiritual awakening, definitely. We're going to be more spiritual. We're going to seek for spiritual advice. But you know, Neptune is illusion, delusion, lies. Jupiter expanding, so we're going to have a lot of charlatans. So they're going to just, you know, like pop up like mushroom after heavy rain. So you will have to be careful who you trust, because most of them not going to have valid information and knowledge. Very, very important. Knowledge is truly important. So seek for the right ones. And then definitely, so massive flood, it can bring massive flood. But eventually, this is going to lead to miracles because of Neptune and Jupiter. Quite frankly, it is the miraculous healings and compassion. Jupiter is a planet of Santa Claus. So you know, like it could be bring for us miracles. For example, we're gonna go for holistic healings, and it could be, you know, like very beneficial for us. So, all right. Do I wanted to say? No, let's go. Let's move forward, because otherwise it's going to be 3 hours. Mars conjunct Uranus in Taurus. And it was July 30, 2022. So, you know, Mars, let's see planet Mars. What is planet Mars and what does it indicate in our life? Planet Mars is our desire or aggression. It rules Aries and co-rules Scorpio with Pluto. It represents our physical energy, or, you know, courage. It is the war within. It is the warrior. And, you know, quite frankly, Mars could be the devil itself. It could be very evil as well. But let's see what is Uranus and what do we know about Uranus. Uranus is independence. It's really original and very rebellious. It's the chaos itself. It's actually like invention and truly magical insight, everything unexpected. It's the higher octave of knowledge. It is the genius itself. So when these two planets conjuncted, so it was actually Mars and Uranus during the Second World War, and that's when we had the Hitler, the dictator, you know, and then Mars and Uranus conjunction also could create a new dictator. And actually, I have to tell you, Hitler was Taurus, but Mars and Uranus, right now, we have again the eclipse in Taurus and Scorpio. And actually, even if what's his name? Putin is Libra sun, but definitely he has a lot of Plutonian energy. He has Scorpio rising, and it's representing a dictator with Scorpionic. The axis is in Scorpio, right? So Mars Uranus happened in with North Node in Taurus, but the axis of Taurus is in Scorpio, the opposite sign. So it's going to bring on right now an opposite sign dictator, which is Scorpionic, and with Putin with his Scorpionic rising going to become the next dictator over here. So what else happened during, and you know what? Yes. So actually Mars Uranus conjunct also in 1556 when Neptune and Jupiter conjuncted also. So these two conjuncted the same time. When was the big flood and when was the war, the Opium War. And you know, opium usually Neptune representing drugs, and you know Mars Uranus is the war, so that is together. Yes, that is another war on drugs or for drugs. So I can imagine actually big pharma to create something like, all right, so they don't want to take our vaccination, they don't want to take, or they have more knowledge, more information, so we're gonna go in war somehow. That's I can imagine. Or you know, the because of Neptune is also could be religion. So as Jupiter, right, spirituality, religion, and this is war over here, we can have some kind of spiritual war as well. And it could be simple as it is, because if we check the planets, and if we check, for example, Neptune is representing socialism or communism, Mars and Uranus could be dictatorism, and actually Mars and Neptune also could be dictator and communist dictator. Uranus is very liberal and capitalism, but with Mars it could be like someone who is like taking over, but it could be also like artificial intelligence. Uranus is artificial intelligence, so could take over that. So, all right, what can we really expect from this kind of conjunction? So, you know, before I was talking about, and I also made a really nice video about this triple conjunction that happened a long time before. And then this triple, for example, it's happened 2,340 years before in Taurus. And this triple conjunction that just happened on 2022, July 30th, it can bring for us something with military drones, military flights. So it's going to be like a lot of change in, it can bring in war, it could bring in nuclear war, Uranus representing nuclear war, or Mars is an accident, an unexpected accident of Uranian energy, nuclear accident somehow, and it could be devastating. It could also crashes, for example, the bank system, right? And Uranus is a digital currency could come. It could also give us freedom in, a lot of protest, unrest, and fighting for gay marriages and gayness, Uranus representing as well. It's revolution in technology, for example, and you know, like, for example, Uranus in Taurus, it is something with our farming system. So it's a revolution, the way we are going to farm, the way we are growing our food. So it could be very technological, unfortunately. It could be really like synthetic and, you know, like it's not even food, but somehow we're going to consume that. On one way, it could end starvation somehow, but you know, unfortunately, it could be really plasticky, and it could be very artificial with that Uranian energy. But definitely, it's the farming will be revolutionary. Revolutionary, I can talk, and innovative as well. So what else going to change? So, you know, Mars could be fire, Uranus could be tornado, so fiery tornado. Uranus also, it's lightning, but so we're going to have a lot of lightning accident And you will see a lot of people are going to die from lightning. And also it is a new kind of war on energy, for example. People are not going to be able to use energy as they did before, or they're going to cut off energies, the lights, powers, and things like that. You know, Uranus also representing X-ray, and it could be like a new way of we are taking X-rays right now. And so yeah, military drones, military technology, robots going to go to become soldiers and fight in a war, for example, simple as it is. All right, let's move forward, guys, because then we're going to have, like as I said, like talking about this forever. Then let's peek into, what is the next one? Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces, 2022. Oh, why do I have that twice? Okay, so that's over. I was talking about that April 12th. So let's talk about Pluto enters Aquarius. That's great. And you know why? Because Aquarius is a humanitarian sign. Aquarius is future oriented. Aquarius is the humans, and Pluto is a deep transformation over there. So when, you know, it's gonna happen actually 2023 March, and then it's going to retrograde back to Capricorn, and then it's going to go Pluto to 2024 and going to reside over there, over in Aquarius over 12 years. So let's talk about that a little bit. So, you know, when Pluto went to Aquarius before, it was 1560-ish, something like that. Actually, at 1525, we still had Pluto in Capricorn, and that's when we had the South America brought the slaves from Africa. So that's definitely was slavery there. And then we did have also the Incas, and the Mayans were killed by the Spanish and British flots. And so that was the true invasion and vandalism and invasion of South and North America. And then also the slavery. But when Pluto went to Aquarius, we started to declare independence. And then we started to declare, like, for example, started to forbid slave trade. So what we can expect from this, we're going to have, and you know, as you say, oh, no slavery today. That's not true. We do have sex trafficking, sex slavery, and Pluto is the planet of sex, right? Also, and in Aquarius, it's humanitarian, so it could end finally sex slavery. And I'm gonna talk about that in details later on, because we have here another conjunction that it's also going to indicate and confirm this. So, but I truly hope, like for example, Pluto could be also organ trafficking. So it's ending organ trafficking and ending sex slavery. And how? Because of we already going to have Uranus, which is gonna go to Gemini, and which is the technology improving, and also we're going to have Uranus and Jupiter conjunction, which is actually will be like capable to print organs and robots. So those ill-minded, malefic people can use their robots for their ill pleasure. And then they're not going to need organ trafficking, because it's going to be available and it's going to be affordable. Yeah, but of course the technology has some backside over there, right? Because we're going to be half printed and half human, you know, like, so that's back and forth. But definitely it can end finally, that kind of industry, right? Okay, so let's go back. And yes, so we were talking about Pluto in Aquarius, so ended the trade of the slaves. And you know, but also we had Pluto in Capricorn when the United States of America was declared founded. But truly, the independence, it became a lot later, It was like 1797 when we truly declared independence. And that was already an Aquarian cycle, started in an Aquarian cycle. All right, so what can we expect from this cycle? We're going to reform society, we're going to work together in friendship, and we're going to work in freedom. And we're going to create groups. So that was I was talking about also over here with the Saturn Jupiter and with this, which is ending the old, pushing out the old power. Saturn Jupiter starts something humanitarian and working. So yes, Pluto enters Aquarius, we're going to create tribes and work together, and we're gonna work in groups. So I can see, for example, a lot of friends buys houses in the same area, and they're going to create their own food, grow their own food, and somebody going to be the who does the furniture, somebody going to be the medicine woman or doctor, or like then they're going to, if they're gonna have one person representing something, or the teacher over there and teaching their children, just like Israel have the kibbutz. So that's how I can imagine that somehow. So yes, so we're going to have those kind of tribes together, and we're going to, that is a huge breakthrough, definitely, for us. And what else can we expect from this? So, well, it's going to be a lot of breakthrough in science, because Aquarius is science and Pluto is transforming that. So what kind of breakthrough can you expect? So if you remember back then Pluto was in Aquarius, not in Aquarius, but in an air sign, then we did have, so yes, when it started an air sign, we did have a DNA clone, and we did have something with cloning, what was that? The sheep Dolly. Yes, I remember the Dolly, the sheep. So we finally cloned the sheep, and then also we had something else, but that was in 2000. Yeah, it was 2097 when we had free people DNA, and we created an embryo from the DNA of free people and not from two. And also 2010, we did have like scientists created an ear from collagen, used a 3D printer. So what can we expect right now? Yes, besides sex trafficking and organ trafficking, for example, I can imagine, and also let's move a little bit forward here to Jupiter and Uranus conjunction as well. We can actually create something from carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. We can create diamonds. So diamond not going to be expensive also. So the diamond, the blood diamond, when they killing African people and making them slaves and for nothing, and they risking their life, is gonna be over as well, because diamond going to be really affordable. So definitely it is truly transformative, and it is a breakthrough in science, and it's a breakthrough in aviation. So you will see very fast planes. You will see like probably we will go to LA to France within an hour and a half or less. So that's going to happen also. So definitely in aviation and science. Unfortunately, the science breakthrough could be something scary, and I'm gonna tell you why. I just saw the Cronenberg movie, and he's a genius. He is very Plutonian though, but he actually created a movie right now, produced a movie and directed like the art changed, and people started to grow organs outside of the body, but it was some with artificial intelligence and printed and grow, and they tattooed the liver outside of the body, and oh my God, very Plutonian. So Pluto in Aquarius, I can imagine actually Cronenberg movie coming through, and like we're gonna live that kind of life also. Yes, so that's pretty much what we can accept. But I'm happy for a lot of things from with Pluto in Aquarius. I'm truly happy and I'm looking forward to it. Let's go actually to Jupiter conjunct Uranus and what can we expect from that situation. So technology going to change. And then, Uranus is the rebel. So we're going to actually have a lot more protests coming up. And also, and it's going to happen in Taurus. So Taurus still, and Earth sign Uranus doesn't like to be there because Taurus is very comfortable and lazy. Uranus want to initiate and Jupiter want to expand. So it could be like luxurious items could be expanded through some kind of technology for sure. But, this cycle could bring for us something with a new platform in social platforms, for example. And why? Because of Netflix and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, the iPhone, iPads and Amazon Prime, it all was invented in 2010, just like printed like the collagen era as well. So it was all Plutonian when we had that kind of Aquarian air energy. But then what we can expect from this Jupiter and Uranus cycle, we can have something with globalization. So Uranus has no boundaries at all. And Jupiter is expanding boundaries. So I would say like a new borders going to be created. And for example, you remember Jupiter and Neptune, and I forgot to talk about that. Jupiter, Neptune also could be like expanding borders because Neptune has no border at all and Jupiter is expanding. So it could be, and why? Because of flooding. So a lot of people are going to get flooded and going to have an exodus here when Jupiter and Uranus going to conjunct. So it's going to create definitely new borders for us and globalization. I can see one government because of Uranus is also liberalization and freedom, and it is also capitalism, and Jupiter is expanding that. So definitely it could build a one government kind of society, and also this society will be built on technology and also nuclear power as well. So we think nuclear power not going to be important and we're going to give up that kind of situation. I mean, we're gonna give up the fight with and the threat with nuclear power, but unfortunately, I don't think it's gonna happen soon, because I think we're going to use nuclear power more in the next 2-3 years. We're going to expand our digital currency, so we're definitely going to bypass banks and bank systems. And Uranus in Taurus, it's going to be something with technology revolution or medical field going to expand like crazy, the medical technology. And unfortunately, the AI can take over the power. So yes, that is a fact over here. And the innovation in technology. So let's see. It will create some kind of new platform, not Netflix and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. We're going to either rename those platforms, or it's going to create totally new technology. For example, I don't see the iPads and the phones anymore the way we are holding it. I see that in the air, and like we're going to type or everything going to be printed in our body under the skin, and we are capable to phone call like that. And it's going to be like a hologram right in front of us. For example, Uranus could be a hologram and Jupiter expands. So yes, definitely it could be. And when Uranus is going to go in Gemini, definitely I can see the communication with even our past relatives through holograms. So if you're gonna watch a video about or deceased parents or grandparents, they're going to actually stand right in front of us in a hologram, and you're going to be capable with that virtual reality relief, like you are there and you can hug them. And so yeah, I don't know if it's gonna be good or not, because we're never gonna have closures, but in some cases, I guess it will be wonderful. So yes, that's what I wanted to see, but tell you about Uranus and Jupiter, but definitely it's a new platform, it's globalization, it's new borders. For example, what I can see the US going to break up for 4 parts. So it's not going to be United States of America. It's going to be like 4 free countries. And also it's going to be like Europe also going to expand its borders, some countries. And there is like not going to be Lithuania, or I just said a country over there, but you know, like something going to actually expand and not give the authority of the other countries. So, and why I'm saying that? So let me see where is my notes, because I made a lot of notes about those countries, and I made notes actually about China. I made notes about Russia and Putin and Ukraine and Taiwan, and you know, a lot of countries. I checked a lot of countries, and US, of course. So first of all, US has the Pluto return, so it's going to be devastated in here. And it's going to be the 3rd time in end of the year, or next year, some beginning of next year, because Pluto is in retrograde right now, and Pluto return is in 27 degrees. It's already very exact 2 times. But what I see when Saturn gonna go actually to Pisces, where is it? Ingress Pisces 2023, March 7th, US has Saturn in Pisces, and then Saturn going to be, no, actually US has Saturn 27 degrees Aquarius. So Saturn right now 22 degrees in retrograde. So it's gonna go back, station direct, and gonna go back. And when it's going to reach Aquarius 27 degrees, it's going to be around February. So it's going to be devastated for you know, the woman in general, unfortunately, or it's going to be devastating for the homeland, and you know, like moon representing dogs, woman's breast, it's representing the house, so real estate as well. So actually it's going to be and the people itself, so it's gonna be devastated for US people, and for the real estate itself going to go under, really under. And with this Pluto return, definitely US going to suffer tremendously. Unfortunately, I have no good news. All right, so what about the other countries? So China, why do I think China not going to be superpower? Because China also had, when Saturn-Pluto here, Saturn-Pluto conjuncted on China's Jupiter in Capricorn, 22 degrees. It's a very malefic degree, and Saturn-Pluto is malefic, and it was on the 11th house in China, Jupiter, and it's conjuncted there. So it's the death of society. And you know, it started a disease from there, at least that's what they said. And then it gave some kind of hate crime here. So everybody is against China, and everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people hate Chinese. And also China has Saturn Moon in 3 degrees Aquarius. So soon after this conjunction, Saturn went on their moon, and that was devastated. That was the lockdown, starvation, people get killed because just simple because they are Chinese, hate crime, but a lot of other situation. And that's devastating when a country has Saturn on the moon. Saturn moon conjunction could be very devastating. US gonna suffer also next February. And what else? Like I checked Ukraine. Ukraine also had it 3-4 degrees. Saturn went on its natal moon when the war started with Russia in February. So of course it's devastating for its people, death of their people. So the death is rising somehow. All right. So why Russia? I tell you why. Because Russia has Mars and Uranus and North Node conjunction in the 10th house of reputation, of career, and that is leadership. And it's Uranus and Mars and North Node conjunction. It is another dictator is rising from Russia, and it's going to be a superpower, unfortunately. Plus, I checked Putin's astrology chart, and it's definitely, however, I don't know, maybe good news, but I see Putin has a very bad aspect in 2024 February, so his health going to decline, and either he gonna disappear or just because he's in the hospital and he has some kind of major issue, but definitely there is some kind of power struggle for Putin there. So yes, I did check, and China definitely is down right now, and it will go down. And Taiwan as well, because it also has a very bad aspect, Saturn and Moon aspect, and also the Saturn and Pluto conjunction also happened on its Jupiter. So Taiwan is down as well. So China probably before going to declare a war for Taiwan and get it, and then later on both of them going down. But Russia is rising, and definitely borders going to be like expanded somehow. All right, so let's move forward. Yes, let's move forward over here when Neptune going to enter Aries, and I have to get together my thoughts because I just don't know. So Neptune in Aries, yes, and Uranus in Gemini. So what's gonna happen there? So Neptune in Aries, it is typical, just like, for example, Aries is ruled by Mars, and Mars is an initiator. Mars is aggression. Mars is fire. Also enterprise and courage as well. But physical energy, competitiveness. Neptune doesn't like to be in Aries. Neptune is delusional, illusional, dreamy, slow, wants to sleep all the time. Like it is the healing, but slowly. So in Aries, definitely doesn't do that. In 2025, it's going to ingress Aries, and Neptune also rules the ocean. So Neptune in Aries could actually be something like the water is going to be in general going to be hotter, so it could increase the temperature of the ocean, and that's bad. And also Aries is drought, Neptune is water, so from 2025 we can have a lot of drought, unfortunately. So like the drinking water going to be an issue for us if we are not collecting rainwaters, and if we are not doing some kind of technology for creating like water from salty water. We will have to do that because otherwise we're gonna be in trouble with this situation here. And also this Neptune is going to conjunct with Saturn in Aries 2026, beginning in February. And it's going to start a new cycle, and Saturn and Neptune cycle. So look here, It's going to start a 35, 37-year cycle. And what can it be? Saturn is restriction. Saturn is starvation also. Neptune is actually giving you the seafood, but because of the temperature is rising, it could be lack of seafood. We're not gonna have seafood available here. Why? Because of the temperature is rising, because of we actually fished all the fishes. We didn't have, we will have to count with the consequences, the way we lived before. Nothing is enough. We chew more than we can, or we bite more than we can chew. So this is actually going to teach us, and it's going to be significant in our life. But on the other hand, Saturn, Neptune is very delusional, like drug, and like everybody using drugs and numbing themselves, and Saturn is restricting it. So Saturn and Neptune conjunction also could be good, and that is the sunny side of that, like restriction with drugs, or drug not going to be available, and more like holistic healing going to be available, and initiate holistic healing, and initiate actually stopping the cartel, because Aries ruled by Mars, so it's a fight against drug, with help of government. It could initiate that as well. So, every single aspect, every single planet has the lows and the highs, and we need to actually try to concentrate on the highs and try to actually meditate on it. And 17-second meditation and concentration on one positive thing actually could create a pattern. And it's enough. Just keep the visualization, keep the picture for 17 seconds, and it helps. So definitely it could be positive as well, but unfortunately I definitely see that like drought over here, and like lack of fish, and lack of seafood, and or fish available for us. What else? So Neptune is aliens, Saturn is government, or actually it could be the end conjunction in Aries, it's initiating. So it could be like, okay, let's initiate something with aliens as well. Or finally, it could be like Saturn could be censorship if it's conjunct with Mercury. But in this case, because it's in Aries, it could be like impulsiveness and initiating. So it could be some kind of situation with, all right, we know they are there. We know we can have some kind of, visuality with them already. And yes, then we are capable to have some structures between other civilizations and us. And also why? Because we had Jupiter and Uranus conjunction as well. That's also Uranus alien ship. Jupiter is, we're going to see a lot of UFOs actually in 2024. And Uranus also ingress Gemini in 2025, just like when Saturn going to ingress Aries. So in 2025, it's a lot of changing, and it's very prominent changing. And when Uranus actually going to enter Gemini, ingress Gemini, it's Uranus takes about 84 years to go through the zodiacal sign, and it's going to reside in Gemini between 2025 and 2033. And that's going to be Uranus is represent revolution in principles. So in Gemini, it's going to be a change in education, and in originality, and even in traditions. But it's going to be sudden breakdowns and sudden awakenings as well. And finally, rapid change in the way we are stimulating the mind, and in not only in technology, but innovation in technology, but also innovation in communication, and rapid change with with studying. So finally, education will be center of attention. Finally, education and intelligence going to have value, not like before this Plutonian, Saturnian, Capricornian energy. Everything was around sex and money and drugs. No, finally, we will have like value, intelligence, and integrity. So that is genius over here. And I can't wait for this revolution. I'm very, very happy for that and for this rapid change, because definitely we need that. So, all right. And, over here, we're going to have a little bit of, and Saturn Neptune, wow, yeah, that could be another war here. And why? Because of Neptune is spirituality, and it also could be religion as well. Actually, it's Jupiter, but because of Jupiter, Chorus, Neptune, Chorus with Neptune. So I would say it is also about spirituality, and it could be a war on spirituality, a war on holistic healers as well. And it could actually end of a structure in spirituality. So it could be end popism here and start another war. But you see, when Uranus is going to trine Pluto 2026 and 28 here, Neptune sextile Pluto, we're going to have a breather here. So we're going to be like, oh, we can breathe again. Transformation is done. It is opportunities over here. It's beautiful here. Yes, so we're gonna get a breather here. And then after Saturn square Pluto 2029, wow, that's going to be difficult. That's again power struggle, because the new power that we created, the new tribe that we created, it's going to go under revision. It's going to go under like, all right, we are not happy with that, and somebody wants to create, you take over the power. That's power struggle. That's it, or take back the power. But of course, we won't let it. And then we're going to have here Saturn conjunct Uranus in 2032 in Gemini, which is actually not necessarily going to be bad, but I'm going to talk about that in details later on, because these 12 years of cycle here, what was I talking about, it's truly like it's a lot, and like I don't want to overwhelm you guys. So like I'm looking forward for change, and I'm looking forward to actually renew our faith and or spirituality, and we're going to have transformation. For example, here Neptune sextile Pluto, transformation in music and art. It's beautiful, because when Saturn conjunct Neptune, it could be something with art, like they're going to restrict art, or like the music. Actually, it's going to be more like very structural or very energetic like areas. It's like, or I can imagine like a lot of military music, which is like crazy. Why would it be bad? Yeah, because Aries could be military, Neptune is music, or like very different kind of art that we actually got used to. And it's not gonna be a renaissance here, romantic, because Saturn is called, Aries is like warrior and war, so definitely not going to be that kind of, so it's a war on art as well, and healers and spirituality as well. But later on, look, it's beautiful. It's like, all right, finally we're using technology for something amazing, something transformative, but we are doing something good with it. Neptune sextile Pluto, it's like finally art is under transformation, and it's going to be beautiful as well. Yes, so that's what I wanted to tell you guys. But that is definitely a collective experience, and it's also we going to need outpouring compassion, and yes, some of us going to sacrifice our life, and uh, but there is a lot of visionary people, new visionary people with Uranus and Jupiter conjunction. So yes, there is always some, in the change there is always a purge, and that purge, and always people going to die, and but there is also in the revolution some beautiful like renewal in our faith, and embody something what we can in a new culture, embody a new culture and a new society, which I'm happy for. Okay, guys, so if you liked my video and my podcast, please check out my website, which is www.urbanwitch.org. And we're going to talk about all the cycles in details. That is just a quick peek over here, but we can expect. And if you listen my video all the way, you will know I do this video because of this podcast, because I want to give you a snow gear in a snowstorm. So I want you to be ready, even if the aspects are not pleasant. That's the sorry side of the planetary aspect right now. But I mean, a lot of them is sorry side, but we did talk about the sunny side as well. But at least you're not going to freeze to death in a snowstorm. You can get prepared. You can get your food pantry filled, and you're not gonna go hungry, because Saturn could be starvation, right? So when Saturn actually with Neptune, that could be also starvation, spiritual starvation, starvation in art, or actually it could be starvation because of the seed food and not gonna be available. And don't forget, we did have Saturn and Uranus square 2022 and 21 4 times, which is actually lack of food, because Uranus is in Taurus, so earth sign, which is food or food. So that is like it's going to be lack of food for a while. It started the cycle, right? So then it's going to be, you have to really fill your pantry if you can, so you're not gonna go hungry and you be capable to help others. All right, guys, that's it. I'm gonna talk to you later, and check out my website, www.urbanwitch.org. Thank you so much. Till we talk again. Bye. I can't turn that off.